Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, I'm joined by my good friend Will Keller, where we're going to be discussing this topic of modern day wizards. What does it mean to be empowered, to be creative, and to utilize all of the tools and opportunities available to us in this modern day and age? This was a very fun and, in my opinion, very insightful and enlightening conversation that we had. I know you're going to love this one, so stay tuned. That's coming up next. Alright, what is up everyone? Logan Hart here, back yet again for another episode of the Wizard Factory podcast, where together we explore the universe through ourselves. This channel is all about giving you the essential tools and mindsets to live a more free and empowered life. Hit that subscribe button, click the like button on your way in, and I'm very excited to kick today's episode off. I know it's been a little while. I've been a little bit busy on some other very big projects, so I appreciate everyone's patience and support through that. I'm going to be coming back with a vengeance very soon with some new ideas and a potentially new direction. Not that I'm going to deviate from the fundamentals of this channel, but I'm going to be going in on a new sort of subject area, so more on that very soon, so stay tuned. But today I'm joined by dear friend and fellow wizard, Will Keller. It's been a couple years since you've been on the channel, brother, probably since the live show days, so, a couple years, but welcome back to the Wizard Factory.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. It's always fantastic coming on the Wizard Factory, so I'm looking forward to this chat, and yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely. So today we're going to be getting into modern day wizards, right? What does that term really mean, and how does one live that life? How does one embody such a concept? And I will go ahead and say as well that we're going to be talking about something that Will and I are partnering up on, a very big, exciting project we just launched this weekend, and this is our formal Wizard Factory announcement. So make sure you stay to the end of the episode where we'll share a bit more about that. But to get things started, let's just unpack the terms, right? That's always just the best way to get a point across, get an idea across, is take it down to the etymology, unpack it piece by piece, and then you put it all back together and you have a real deep understanding of something. So, modern day, pretty self-explanatory. We live in modern times, and I would say more than any other time, things are changing, right? Because technology is speeding up so fast. There's more change and new technology and gadgetry and things like this than any other time in history, right? 100 years ago, there was not nearly this much stuff happening all at once that a person is almost obligated in a way to stay up with, right? Otherwise you might get left in the dust, So I'll let you riff on that before we continue on.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, modern means now. That's what it means. Reality in the now. And at first, it's really good to kind of have an understanding of like where we're at as individuals, but as a collective aggregate, the species on this planet. So you have to have understanding of what it means to be modern, and then all these different pathways start to open up, right? Literacy, gnosis, wisdom. What does it mean to be wise in the modern, in the now? Right. So all these things start coming up. So it's going to be great to unpack this. And like you said, I always start with definitions for the clarity of meaning. Bam, that's the 0 point. That's the starting point, and then we can unpack from there.
Right. It lets people sort of leave their own baggage at the door with what they think that we might mean with certain terms, and then we're telling you exactly what we mean when we say that, and then you can add your own shit to it as well. But the other thing that I was thinking about here when you said, living in the now, which of course, that is probably the most central spiritual teaching of all times is, presence, mindfulness, be here now. But I think that almost gets overemphasized sometimes. And I'd love to take a minute to talk about, you know, the gift that it is to be able to look to the past and future, because as far as we know, we're the only beings that can do that. Yeah, it can be a pitfall, and a lot of people get caught in these mental, like, glitch loops, right? Cognitive loops and purgatory of over analysis paralysis and dwelling in the past of the old glory days or whatever it may be. But that's an abuse of that ability. That doesn't mean that ability is wrong. It's actually incredible. And think about it. If you're driving, on the highway going down the road, are you just looking at what's directly in front of your car? No, you want to look as far down the road as you possibly can, because that gives you insight as to where you're going. And then when you do get there, which will be the now then, you'll be way more prepared and equipped for that. And I think, again, taking back to what I was saying, now more than ever, as things are happening so fast and evolving and advancing so rapidly, it's more important than ever to not only be present, but be aware of where we're going, what comes next, right? You're to play chess or pool as well. You don't just play one move at a time. You got to think several moves ahead, and that way when you get there, you've got a bigger strategy going on, you know?
Oh man, yeah, 100%. And you're right. It there is an inflation on the present moment awareness, the now. And especially in the new age arenas, everyone's so fixated on timelines. Oh, I'm going to shift my timeline to this. This is all based in, relativism, that reality is based on one's own opinion, opinions and beliefs and preferences. And that's not the case. Um, Objective reality and objective truth, to understand that, you can understand the past, that there's great knowledge and information, maybe not understand it in the totality, but it has happened, it has manifested. So the lessons and the availability of information is vital. Knowing and studying the past, and as the driving analogy, you look in your rear view mirror, you look on the side mirrors,
Mm-hmm.
you can tell what you've passed and where you came from, so you can gauge the direction of where you are going. And there's landmarks that we can see to let us know, well, we're crossing state lines, or I'm in a new town. And those are all significant of events and, things that have happened in history that are markers, these initiatory events that kind of give us opportunity to do something in our life. And that's how I kind of see every event, every life event. It is a potentiality for initiation. And again, there's knowledge and understanding there. So to have awareness on the now, the present moment, present moment awareness, study the past, and gauge the potentials for the future,
Mm.
right? This is very much spirituality.
Yeah, yeah. It's about awareness, right? Spirituality is all about awareness. If you continue to broaden your awareness, it begins in the now, but you can broaden that out. You can be aware of the past, present, and future all at the same time. I think that's where real empowerment is you're living in the now, but you're fully aware of how you got here, the choices that you took to get to this point, and for better or worse, right? To look to the past as a very important and powerful way to reflect about our mistakes and failures, and you know learn how to avoid making those same ones in the future. And also, like we said, to be strategic, to look to where we're headed, to make sure that when we get there, we're in the best position to get where we're going or where we're wanting to go. And when you talk about magic as well, you can't do magic at all without the future, because that's imagination. You're projecting your mind into a realm that doesn't exist in the physical. You're into an unseen, immaterial realm from which to project that conscious idea. And then you step through the past into bringing that reality into manifestation. That's how magic is done. You you know, you can't just, like, what am I trying to say? You can't just create everything off the cuff, right? Yeah, maybe if you're just like skateboarding or something, surfing a wave, you're in the moment, you're just grooving to it, and that's fine. But if you want to do something more substantial, build a house, launch a business, you're going to have to think many steps ahead and see that big picture. And as they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. So you're going to have to go to that day, many days ahead when Rome is built, and think about, how do I get there from here? So this is all very relevant to this modern day wizard concept, because this all applies no matter what time you're in. But I still think that now, today, more than ever, it's so important to be proactive and staying ahead, not just right where you're at, but you're ahead of the curve. You're thinking in terms of strategy. You're adapting and assimilating the new ways to stay relevant and effective.
Mhm. Yeah, man. 360-degree awareness. And this is very much magic. This is very much wizardry. And I think a lot of people fail in that, especially, for an example, when you're talking to, a normie or someone with low level awareness, and you talk about something like communism or socialism, they go, "Oh, that's not going to happen here in America. That's not going to happen," because they're relating that, they're correlating that time period of communism and socialism and like Nazi Germany as an end result. They're packaging up into one perceived almost event
Right.
with the negation of all the steps that happened to build up to that. And same thing with a goal. If you have a goal, it's not about, sure, you need to see it in the mind's eye and feel it as well, but it's also knowing the actions that are needed to take to get you to that goal, to accomplish that goal. And you're going to have to pivot and you're going to have to adjust. And so, critical thinking and problem solving, this is all in the same category of what we are talking about.
Absolutely, man. I love that. So, and like I was thinking, even this episode is a good example of that. Do I script every word that I'm going to say? Not at all. But I have a general outline of things that I want to talk about, and that we have a little bit of structure. This is actually a bit of the masculine and feminine interplay. I create that structure ahead of time, and that structure is the masculine that creates a container, which is like a safe but defined space for the feminine playfulness to come through. It's like you have your directions, you have your parameters, so you can play freely within that space and keep it on the right trajectory towards,
Mm.
a cohesive topic. So,
That's great. Structural flow.
yeah,
Create the foundational structure, the container, and then you need that flow, that creativity, that generating energy, and follow through and go and have fun with it and be focused.
right. Yeah. So to wrap up, just sort of defining our terms, we've discussed modern day, we've talked about the time aspect, and I think people who watch this channel or have, followed us in the past know pretty well what we mean by wizard. This is the Wizard Factory after all. We've pretty well defined it, but it's really just um, a conscientious practitioner of magic, or essentially just creativity, right? Imagination. Everyone's a magician, just most people suck at it because there's no awareness and intentionality and competency. They're doing it badly, right? And a wizard is just one who takes that very seriously, does it mindfully and intentionally, and develops that over time. It's like any other craft, right? It's a, witchcraft, whatever. It's a craft. So it's about living and exercising timeless principles, because doesn't matter what time period you live in, the laws of nature are always present. And that is the key to being a wizard, really. Is, I mean, that's what magic is. And as I define it, is discovering and then leveraging natural laws to create outcomes in your favor, or what you're intending to create, whether it's a, material or just an outcome, a situation, that sort of thing. So that's how I would sort of tie that all together, is you are in perpetual pursuit and study, a student of natural law. These are timeless principles that apply all times and all places, but you're modifying and adapting that to be maximized in the day that you live in, right? So when you think of wizard, typically you think of just a dusty old man, maybe in a, like, a medieval setting. That's how it's often portrayed in a fantasy type of movie or something like that. But it's adding that modern element because that's what a wizard does. A wizard isn't tied to dogmatic practices or just this is how things are done. A wizard is one who's always adapting, evolving, staying on his toes or her toes, and being the best with what situation they're in, what tools they have at their disposal. That's how I see it. Will, what do you think?
Oh yeah, I agree with all of that. And I'll add a few little tidbits on, to be a wizard. To be a wizard is a craftsman or woman, human, is a philosopher. You could say sage, but that might be too mystical for people. But a person that is wise. And to be wise, you need to have that knowledge of the modern times with those timeless universal principles, because you exist in this reality, you exist right now. So how are you going to function? How are you going to apply knowledge to operate in this reality? So, to be wise means to discern and judge right action as well. And that can be both on the micro and the macro, right? To accomplish and achieve your personal individual desires, but also in accordance with the higher self, the true will of natural law and creation. And we all are wizards in some form or fashion. It's a spectrum, it's a gradient. And of course, using that ability, inherent ability to influence and create, um, for either immoral actions or moral actions, is going to kind of, you know, make the difference if one is performing sorcery or wizardry. Um, so yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a multifaceted endeavor, and as I said before, I think a central theme to this is just being committed to self-development. That is a core sort of value or trait of a wizard, as well as you said, being wise, right? A wise art is one who has wisdom, tapping into your intuition, developing skills, and just all around personal development. So being a student perpetually, continuous learning, as well as developing resilience and adaptability, right? Being hardy, being able to overcome like a cockroach, right? You just can't kill it. Um, because that's part of being a wizard, is a type of warrior, right? As well. Like when you play fantasy games, for example, you pick your class, your archetype. You got your warrior, your archer, your thief, and then the wizard. Those are kind of the main archetypes, but they're all warriors. They're all combatants of types. They just have different styles. And the wizard is more about being smarter and more powerful, as opposed to just coming in there with just sheer brute strength, right? And just like the tank, right? It's
Mm,
it's about cunning and and um
yeah.
and just being super powerful, because typically, in these games or whatever, they can't take a lot of hit damage, but they know how to keep their distance so they don't have to, you know tolerate a lot of HP. But their spells are like, just one spell just devastates, the enemy.
Yeah,
So
dude.
they're
I love
way
that.
more powerful in that way.
Exactly. And I mean, us doing this work and people that want to get into creating change, this is what it is. It's action from a distance, right? That is magic. That is being a wizard. I see a wizard as understanding spiritual laws because it's very much operation or function from the metaphysical, within the metaphysical, like the analogy with the brute warrior that can represent the material plane, physicality. He's got physical strength. The wizard has strength as well, but I see it more of the knowledge of the spiritual laws for the metaphysical realm.
Right, and they're incredibly mentally strong as well,
Yeah.
because mental strength that it requires to develop to such a level as that, right? To persevere, to read endlessly, and then practice and refine. Most people aren't cut out for that. That's a special type of mindset, so that's another good point to illustrate that there's many forms of strength beyond just brute force. And then just the embracing failure, right? Because just the perseverance, the resilience that it takes to fail and then to keep going, right?
Mm,
And that's what success really is one's ability to endure relentless failures until you learn how to mitigate that failure. And that's what creates a success, is like the absence of failure, because there's way more wrong ways to do something than there are right ways. There's many right ways and you can still be really creative, but there's a lot, like, yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking of like a ridiculous example, but something like cooking, right? There's all these different foods you can make, but think of all the wrong ways you could, bad ingredients mixed together, or you put in like gravel in there or whatever, like there's way more ways to make a bad dish.
that's right, man. And I think that's a quality, right? We're talking about an archetype. This is what the wizard is. And looking at like the Lord of the Rings series with Gandalf the Grey, he a wizard transmutes failure into knowledge, and that is strength. Learns the lessons and learns how to utilize those lessons as well. Like Gandalf the Grey, and then gained all that experience when he fell into the abyss and battled that
The
huge
Balrog.
that Balrog. Yeah, that's right. And then transmuted that with the experience gained and the knowledge, and transmuting that into action became Gandalf the White.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of good stuff here already. I'm loving this. If you're loving this as well out there in the audience, make sure you like the video. Really helps us out, boosts the video and all that. So moving on, what's next? We've covered the fundamentals of wizardry, and regardless of what time you're in, I think another big component is embracing art and creativity and innovation, right? That's something I've covered a lot on this as well, on this channel. Especially recently, I had Matt Sheck on in the All Is Mind episode, and Matt's a very talented artist, and we talked all about how art is magic and magic is art. I mean, they're very interwoven. So having a strong sort of craft of your own or multiple, right? Like for me, not to toot my own horn, but I have many artistic outlets. I play guitar, or I actually play MIDI instruments. I like to compose music. I do graphic design. I like building websites. I mean, there's many ways that I love to express my creativity, and I think the more you can be branched out and have it, all these different creative mediums, the better wizard it makes you, because it's easier to find the parallels between all of those. What are the things that are the same, universal, when it comes to the creative process? And that's all magic.
Hmm.
That's all that is. So taking on at least one, or ideally multiple, creative expressions and sticking with them till the point that you get pretty good, right? You get a good level of competency to them. That's going to unlock so many other character traits and attributes that go beyond just that thing that you're doing, that you can benefit from in many aspects of your life, and being essentially a more empowered wizard in how you're forging your own life experience and your circumstances and all of that.
That's great, dude. I kind of see a masculine feminine balance within being in art itself, right? You have that feminine which can explore and flow with different outlets of, creative expression. The masculine is following through and learning it more, right? Just don't, oh, I tried doing oil painting or acrylic and I did it a few times and now I'm done. Sure, you can explore, but finding a few outlets that you focus on and you get better, and you
Right.
and you apply discipline, and especially in content creating, and creating a message and creating change and trying to educate people. There, like you said, there's many things that have to be done, and that takes stepping out of your comfort zone, having care and flowing a little bit, but also, buckle down, focus, learn, drive, and follow through.
Right. Yeah. Very well said. Because I was thinking it's kind of like an adolescent young child, or a pre-adult, basically. That's very common for people of that age, early teens. They don't really know themselves very well. And what's a great way to get to know yourself is to try these different things. So kids go through all these phases,
Mm,
oh, I want to be a football player. I want to learn karate. I want to learn archery, right? Or, and those are kind of more masculine things. I want to learn ballet, whatever it may be. And usually kids will try like a lot of things before they find that thing that just clicks, and then they stick with it. And then they get really good because they do it for years, but they have to go through that period of sort of just trying. It's all about experience, right? You don't know until you try it. And I mean,
hmm,
granted, everybody's going to kind of suck at anything when they first do it. So that's something amusing in and of itself, is like a kid will suck at all these things, and then they'll find one thing and they probably still suck at it, but for some reason it's different. And they're like, oh, but I want to do it again though,
yeah.
and maybe I'll suck a little less next time. But it's an interesting thing to contemplate, like what is it that makes that thing different, even though it's all bad in the beginning, because everybody's going to go through that stage of struggle and being bad and kind of embarrassing at it. But then what is that thing that makes them like, yeah, I know I suck, but I still enjoy it and I want to keep doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think that's one of the beautiful things about being human. I am an adept installer when it comes to my field. I am a master. I've mastered that craft. Yet I can go and do something totally different from windows. I can go do flooring, and I'm at the base level. I'm at ignorance,
Yeah.
right? So we can try all these different things, and we can learn and improve that, especially with kids. I think society, there's always that pressure or a common question, little Johnny, what do you want to be when you grow up? A young kid has no concept of grown up, right?
Right.
I mean, that's they don't have a a concept of time. Oh, that's going to be 25 years from now. So they don't know. So that's why it changes, because what they really want to do is they want to do something what they're interested in the now.
Right.
So instead of what do you want to be when you grow up, hey, what do you want to explore now? And now it might be, oh, I want to be a veterinarian. And then, few months later, it's something different. And being, an unschooler, father, this is our job, is to take those initial interests and then promote,
Nurture
um,
that.
and nurture that, provide resources, and kind of showcase critical thinking and certain tactics and tools that can be utilized uh, for the child in their given interests.
Right. Right. That's interesting because, yeah, you don't hear a kid say, "Oh, well, I'd love to do this, but I know it'd take me at least 10 years to get good at
Yeah.
it." Like they don't even think about that. They're just like they see the end result and they're like, "Wow, that's cool. I want to do that." And
Yep.
who cares how you get there?
But even for adults, how many adults in the world have been doing something for 30 years or whatever, 20 years in the same cubicle on the hamster wheel and never try anything else?
Yeah.
It's that creativity. It's that creativity is dimmed, it's
Yeah.
shot. So having those outlets is vital for health, um, mental condition, emotional, and physical as well, spiritual.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking about that. I believe I told you that story, Will, about when I was teaching guitar, like one-on-one private lessons, and there was this lady. She was like middle-aged, probably late 40s, early 50s, and she decided and she got it in her head she wanted to play guitar, and she had money, and she's like single, maybe divorced or widowed or something like that, but she had money, so she just went out and bought these like not just one, but like three super custom, like multi-thousand-dollar guitars and had them, hung up on her wall, mounted and everything. And then was like, okay, now I want to learn to play them. And I think we did like two, maybe three lessons, and she quit because it was too hard. It's like there was no
Oh, gee.
concept of, oh, I'm going to have to actually apply myself and, grind through the suck to get to that level of what I have in my head, kind of a thing. And this is
See,
a fully grown woman. So some
yep.
people just don't ever even develop that.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost like she doesn't have a concept of how it actually works. You can have all the fiat dollars in the world, and it will not buy you dedication, hard work,
Hmm.
creativity, and experience.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I just want to take a quick moment to offer you a special gift. It's the free initiation package download. This is a free download package that includes the Toolbox mini course. I created this package to equip you with all of the essential tools you need for any type of energetic or magical practice for anyone serious about their spiritual development. It's comprised of 3 parts: the circle, the breath, and the voice, where you'll learn how to cast the circle of the Magi, various breathwork techniques, including a powerful guided breathwork meditation, rune galler, and more. You'll also get access to the Inner Sanctum, our private Facebook group and Discord server, as well as some Wizard Factory wallpapers for desktop and mobile, all for free. And for those who've already seen this course, I'm happy to announce that this is a brand new remake with better production and even more information. You can find the link to get yours in the description below. So check it out and let's get back to the content. So the next thing, I guess we have been kind of touching on this, but just to sort of crystallize it, building a personal practice. There's a lot of, if you ever heard of an author named Robert Greene, he talks a lot about mastery, and one thing I love about the way he writes is he's very knowledgeable about history, and he always adds these cool historical anecdotes to everything he's saying. So it's not like this is just him pulling stuff out of his ass and publishing it like, oh, this is what I think. He's sharing stuff and then backing it up with like this, you know, 12th century queen did this thing, and that reiterates what I'm saying. Or like Leonardo da Vinci, for example. I mean, you want to talk about mastery. That dude was insane. From a young age, I was always very inspired by Leonardo da Vinci because I just thought it was so cool how he was so good at so many different things, And I've always sort of aspired to be what I call a modern day Renaissance man. And, now that I'm thinking of it, that's very close to what we're talking about here, is a modern day wizard. Leo da Vinci was absolutely a wizard. Whether he thought of himself as that or not, I don't care. De facto, he fits the description. And that's what it's about, is, because you're a student and a scholar of the world. So how are you going to do that if you don't have this broad knowledge base and see how everything interconnects? This is animism,
Yes.
So one of the reasons Leonardo da Vinci was such an amazing artist is because he also studied anatomy at like at a doctorate level, basically. Like he knew every bone and sinew and every single part of the body and the way it puts together. So that's why when you look at his physical, the physiques of the characters he would draw, it was incredible. It was so lifelike, and the proportions and everything, because he had that bigger understanding, right? That's such a great example of what I'm talking about here, where all knowledge weaves into the same tapestry. And the wider you can have of an understanding of the world, right? Understand how economies work, understand how governments work, how building techniques and like handiwork and business and marketing, like all of these things fit together beautifully, even though they seem like completely different things. And just that recognition is part of being a wizard, because the dunce, the blockhead, is the guy that or girl that would be like, well, what does economics have to do with building a house or whatever? It's that holistic, forest for the trees type of thinking, that left brain, pattern recognition and correlative thinking and all of that. That is essential to being a wizard.
Oh yeah, man. Absolutely. A wizard loves learning, falling in love with learning and being an autodidact. And
Yeah.
and to kind of expand or go a little deeper, put an emphasis, I should say, on a wizard as a philosopher, because the philosopher has the love for knowledge and for wisdom and asks those questions, and it loves learning itself. And if you think about, if we're trying to solve problems either within our day-to-day lives or in, create change in the world, having that mindset is going to serve you very well. Serve you very well. And that's something that I've kind of had most of my life. I just love learning a little bit about everything, or have a broad spectrum of understanding to the best of my abilities. And sure, I got my pockets and my pathways that I focus on, but it's just nowadays that tunnel vision of people, of what they know, it's so predictable and it's so minute.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
And so I was just thinking about the importance of ritual as well. And this is something we've talked about. It's actually been a while. There's an old episode back towards the early days of Wizard Factory where we talked about what is ritual, and it's not what most people think of. You know, when someone says, "What's your morning ritual?" That's what that really means. It's not just about lighting candles and having your dagger and doing this and that. I mean, it's that too, but a ritual is anything that's really just um, a practice that you're putting your intention behind. It's like you don't just do a ritual if you don't have a purpose for it, right? You're doing that for a very specific reason and you're trying to bring about a certain outcome. So the ritual is more than just some hocus pocus stuff, is you're putting action into an intention. That's a magical act.
Mm.
And you're basically communicating to the universe, like, this is what I want. I'm willing to not just wish for it. I'm going to commit myself to this, whether it's a one off or a daily or a monthly or a yearly, interval, because it's that repetition. There's something to that. This is why this was a normal part of pagan life. They had rituals and ceremonies and festivals for all sorts of occasions, the changing of the seasons, and you know all kinds of stuff, because that it was about that synchronizing with natural cycles and patterns and putting that intentionality into a meaningful exercise. And think about a festival. You're really putting all of this psychic energy out there with celebration and food and you know people, camaraderie, right? Community. Those are all very powerful energies that can be sort of channeled into something. And when you have all these people that are trying to call in the same thing, like a bountiful harvest, for example, that's very powerful. If you're someone who is metaphysically minded, right? A right brain materialist is going to be like, oh, what difference does that make?
Mhm.
But that's, I mean, there's really not even anything I can say to that. That's just, I mean, you don't have to believe in it, but in my experience and my intuition, based on how I see things operate here in this realm, is like that mastermind effect. I mean, you alone is powerful, and doing a ritual alone in your room is powerful. But when you get a group of people with all the same mindset who are trying to bring about the same thing, and you're putting practice into that, very, very powerful.
Oh yeah, there's an amplification for sure with that energy and that psychic energy and the effect that it has, right? Perception management for behavior control. I say this a lot, but that could be negative or it could be positive as well, because you're setting the intentions, you're putting the mental psychological markers there, and you're working with that energy to take action on a certain goal. And people have, when they think of ritual, they kind of associate it with some cheesy Hollywood ceremonial magic type thing. And sure, I mean, in some rituals you use objects because you can see them, and the subconscious can see a dagger. That, a dagger will represent slicing through the air, so an air element. And what does an air element represent? So there's all these correspondences: a cup, a water, candles, all that kind of stuff. And hey, if people use that, that's great. I have things that I use. But what is it really? Right? It's an object to spark a mental image or a thought form to work with certain types of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get in a group or a collective doing a festival or something, you're trying to harness and unify the energy with the rhythm of life, the natural forces and flow that is going on in reality, in nature. And when you align yourself, or a group of people align yourself with certain forces or energies and thought forms, it has a profound effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And especially if you start taking action on that as well.
Yep.
So it's not just about, let's get together and drink a bunch of mead, or, and have a bonfire. Like, that's great and all. but what can we build together?
Yeah.
You know, what sort of ethos can we carry as a community? That's incredibly powerful too. So I would say part of being a modern day wizard is living in the spirit of cooperation, collaboration, and community. Those are absolutely vital because we understand we can't do everything ourselves. Humans are meant to work together. We are meant to live together, support one another, love one another. This is the natural way. The the reason that we've deviated from that is because we're living unnaturally. And I think that the state of the mental health crisis speaks volumes about where that's gone, you know, where we're at with that. I think losing that community aspect is a massive part of a contributing factor to the, you know, abysmal state of mental health collectively.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would agree with that for sure. And that's really hard for people, especially when they're battling these, group think mentalities. But we are all interconnected. I mean, now you're getting into a spiritual truth that we are all one family. We are united and connected. Well, I wouldn't say united, but we are connected with the whole biosphere and all life on this planet. So what we do is extremely important, and it has an effect. And depending if you're left brain or right brain imbalance, that can be difficult for certain people. But really understanding that the thoughts are one thing, the emotions are the vibratory, energetic, the mentation, right? And then there's action.
Mm,
Doing something like ritual is very similar to doing like NLP, or the performance of the ritual. It locks it in the subconscious mind. So if you're trying to quit a habit, or you're trying to, pick up a new habit, repetition and how you perform and how you think about that habit has a profound effect for human nature, program um, programmability for the
yeah.
mind itself. And this is what ritual is good with. Everyone has ritual. What do you do when you wake up, or the first 2 hours of the morning that are setting the tempo of the day? That's a ritual. And everyone has a certain type of ritual. And there's
Hmm.
different gradients on how big the rituals or ceremonies can be. But it's important when you start looking at it like that, then you can step back and observe your patterns and your behaviors, and that'll give you profound insight into your mentality, right? Where you're spending your mental energy, and the actions or the effects that are taking place within your life.
Yeah. Very well said. Yeah, because like you said, everyone has that ritual. It's, but are you paying attention to what that is? You wake up every morning and spend an hour on your phone scrolling Facebook. That's your ritual. What do you think that's doing for your mindset and your creative ability? Those are
Exactly.
precious moments, I think, when you first wake up, because you're still sort of almost dabbling in that hypnagogic state, the between the worlds. That's a very powerful and sacred space, and I think that is a time for me personally that should be spent very intentionally, thinking about your day, getting your into, like, checking in with yourself, seeing if there's anything coming up that you can bring attention to, love on a little bit, and, you know, get your mind right. And that sets the tone for your whole day. And also, you know, you want to have a sacred space too. I think that's very important for a modern day wizard, or any, you know, any day, um, is having your own sacred space that you can go and be left alone and be creative or contemplative or meditative, and do some work, some spiritual work, because it's crazy how much work you can get done alone in a room, you know? Because people think being productive is always about being on your computer or building something, and those things are great too, but you can be very productive just sitting in a room by yourself, reflecting on stuff, clearing your mind, meditating. There's lots of things. Setting intentions,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah, well said. And that's, you know, viewing everything as energy has a huge benefit. For instance, you're talking about, sacred space. I have a few of those, right? I have my garden outside. Well, that has a different type of energy, and I can know when I need to tap into that space. And, the energy of the upkeep of that space as well. I can't just let it all go to shit. It's going to change the energy of it, right? Same thing as my studio. It's another sacred space for me. This is where I sit here to create art, to create content, to get a message out. And I can't not, I got to, there's upkeep with that. So my studio has a certain type of energy to it. And then, of course, my, alone time, or my space where I wind down and calm the mind and clear. And that's where my books are and stuff, my little library. So we have all these spaces, and even something as a vehicle. And my dad always used to say this. Um, you can tell a lot about somebody, like their mentality, their psychology, and their life, on the condition of their vehicle, like
Yeah.
inside of it, right? Is it just a fucking mess, shit everywhere, garbage,
Stale French fries
stale French fries? Yeah, that's an energy, and most likely, their home is very similar.
and their
Their mind is
mind.
very similar.
That's right.
Yep, yep,
Cue
for
Jordan
sure.
Peterson.
Yeah,
How are you
exactly.
going to clean your room if you can't even clean out your bloody car?
Yeah. Just start with making your bed.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, this is great. Another thing I think we could touch on in context to the bigger community issue or concept is also the idea of mentorship. This
Mm,
is something I think we've lost touch with as well in the modern day, is learning under a master as a protege. You know, it's still happening, but it's not as commonplace. Like this used to be very just normal every day. Like everybody had, it was a master apprentice sort of relationship, you know, every trade and craft, you know, tailors and shoemakers and blacksmiths and carpenters, they all had this system. And that's how you learned, is you know, a young person that is a prospect that wants to learn studies under somebody who has done it their whole life and knows in and out and can teach them all the best practices so they're not learning bad habits and passing that knowledge down. It's a very hereditary sort of and I think very almost sacred tradition of just passing knowledge down. What a beautiful thing that is, because think of all the knowledge that's been lost,
mm.
you know. And so especially in terms of whatever your craft is, if there's something that you see as a pathway to mastery, something that's going to help unlock your wizardship, so to speak, you know, find someone that has the results that you want and learn from them. Offer them something. Don't just be like, could you teach me? Because what are you bringing to the table? That's a very not good modern mindset of just like, give me, you know, it's about, I'll work for you for free. I'll sweep your floors, whatever. Just teach me what you know, need to know, and I'll work for free in exchange for that knowledge, you know, because you got to know the value of that. Knowledge is the most valuable thing there is.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, there's a mutualism. There's a give and a take, and there's this symbiosis. And I love this topic because, number one, we all need mentors. What is a mentor? You have mens to think. A mentor is a wise advisor. It is a stepping stone in evolutionary awareness, either in a certain topic, in life, whatever it may be. I have many mentors and I've had many mentors, whether it's herbalism, creating content, being a better person,
Mm.
and philosophy, all of these things. But a mentor can change as your journey progresses, but it needs to be taken seriously, and you stick with a mentor usually for a good amount of time. And I think it's very much different than a leader. I've always said, like, we don't need leaders because leaders will lead you down their own path. We need people like mentors that can advise and assist people to have a greater awareness to lead themselves.
Mm.
And I think this is what mentors do. Young teenage boys especially need to have mentors. This is really good. Mentor could be your father, but it also needs to not be your father. It needs to be other people as well. And that's good and that's healthy. And I think especially teenage boys, they seek that. They seek outside of the family dynamic. They're looking for other mentors. So there's this syncretism that happens naturally for human beings to seek someone that has knowledge as like a way shower so we can learn and gain experience from. And I think this is extremely valuable. And here's the silver lining. Okay, hey, it could be tough nowadays, especially if you have an awareness of morality and what is actually going on in the world. Then you really have to pick and choose your mentors correctly, right? You want a mentor that's ethically and morally sound. But also the beautiful thing about, the modern day and technology is that you really have the world at your fingertips, right? A mentor can be, one on one in real or in the real world, in the flesh and blood, or it can be virtually as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
or just someone that lived 200 years ago and you
oh
read
yeah,
their books. They don't have to be
exactly.
alive either. Yeah,
Yep.
great points. I love this. Um, yeah, and so you mentioned the moral aspect as well. I think that's incredibly important, because a wizard is someone who is taking their power seriously. And, to clarify, when I say power, a lot of people have this really negative stigma around the word power because usually it's conflated to mean authority over others, which is illegitimate and immoral. So, case in point, we're not talking about violent domination. That's not power, actually. That's cowardice. People
Yep.
with true internal power have no interest in such positions. It's the people that are actually powerless that seek that sort of governmental power, for example. There's other forms as well, medical authority. There's other forms of authority that are a little less coercive, but still in that zone. But we're talking about potency, internally derived intrinsic power of potency. What is potency? The ability to have a strong, profound effect. That's magic. So to be powerful is to be magical, to have a stronger influence on your environment, your surroundings, the people around you in a respectful way. You're not imposing, you're not coercing, you're influencing, and you have good intentions. So it's also for the better of everything that you're affecting, whether it's the environment, nature, um, a you're building a business that's going to help people. You're creating a course that's going to educate people, give them skills. You're doing a Reiki practice to heal people. Like that's power, but it's for their good and it's respect. You're inviting people. You're not like, you will do what I say or I will stomp your throat. You know. So yeah, all that to say the importance of morality is ever more important the more powerful you get, because that power can be used for both the left and the right hand path. So you have to understand morality first and have a good understanding of that. And then you have to integrate that and live in alignment with a strong ethical code for yourself and be in integrity with that and teach others that as well. That's extremely important, especially now than ever, where people are ignorant to morality. They feel, oh, yeah, I'm a good person. And then they do this and that that's like totally violating, other people's rights.
Yep. Yeah, man, for sure. Power, the ability to act or do. So what's the condition of those actions and that ability? And of course, it could be left or right hand path. But stepping into evolution and freedom and creation, right? Creation does want freedom. It does want to evolve and expand. That is where true empowerment lies.
Mm-hmm.
And that is true power right there, righteous power, understanding morality and ethical principles and utilizing that in the modern day, in the now. And that would be standing up to evil, a care for justice, care in general.
Mm.
And that very much aligns with being a wizard, like you said. And I see it as vigor. It's all of these virtues um, that will add and betterment to an individual, but it also adds to the collective and to nature and the whole itself. That is true power right there. Doesn't take away for personal gain. Um, so yeah, man, that was great.
Hell yeah. Yeah. And then, talking about spiritual practices, because you had mentioned leadership versus mentorship. That was a really interesting distinction that I'd never really thought of in that way, paired together in terms of, a mentor will create competent self leaders, whereas a leader could be someone who's more just saying, oh, just do everything that I do and don't ask questions, and
Yes.
that's not very empowering. You could be leading someone in a way that's beneficial to them, but you're also not really empowering them through that process, because what happens the second you're not around anymore? Now they're helpless. Where's my leader? You know? So understanding that, being able to stand in your own ability, capability, and cultivate that self-trust, and as we keep saying, the competence that's so vital, especially to wizardry, is competence, and that even if you're not competent, you're adaptable and smart and resilient enough to find a way, because that's wizardry too. It's not about knowing the perfect thing and always having the right thing to do in every situation. Is trusting in yourself to be clever and figure it out, basically. You know,
Oh yeah,
Even if
dude.
it's not perfect, you'll get through it and you'll learn something.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, being a wizard, it's inspiring people to look within themselves and take action. That's again, the difference between leader and mentor in my perspective. Sure, someone can be a leader meaning they went first,
Mm.
right? But to lead yourself is where the empowerment is. And there's a quote, right? A true teacher is not the one who has the most students, but the one who creates the most teachers,
Yeah.
because it's inspiration. You are inspiring someone to do the work within. And that is where the wizardry is for sure.
Hell yeah. I love that. And also just finding your own path spiritually, because I I see wizardry as incompatible with like dogmatism and religionism. They're two diametrically opposed walks of life, because, magic and being a sovereign being, is about forging your own path. It's not about following what someone else has done or says that you should do or says is the best. Is, first of all, you want to source that from a wide range of sources. You want to learn from this person and that person, and they might say different things, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. And then you experiment and find out what works for you. And you take from this person and that, but you're finding what works for you, and you become this sort of amalgamation of things that have worked for some people and not worked for other people, but you found what works for you, and that's what matters most, because you are the only one living your life and finding your way and discovering truth through your own eyes, your own perspective, and your own experience. So
Mm,
you have to cultivate that. You've got to, because it's a fear thing. It's like people are afraid to think for themselves and not know the answers to things. So they cling to belief systems because it's a nice, neat, prepackaged, here's everything. You just believe all of this and you'll be just fine, right? Whether
yep.
it's science or the Bible, there's many religions beyond what are called religions, but it's that's what I mean when I say religion. Is it's a belief system. It's a, you don't need to think for yourself, just trust the priest or trust the scientist or trust the experts. Trust, don't, don't verify. Believe, don't verify. That is the biggest problem, in my opinion, in the whole world.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that is rooted in ignorance and cowardice, because it's so easy to say, "Okay, it's all prepackaged. I'm just going to be this. This is what I identify with." And that is the easy route. It's a lot harder doing the fucking work within yourself and thinking for yourself and chiseling out your own path, because that is actually what sovereignty is. You are your own king. And what goes with that? Authenticity, because you are your own author of your actions and your accountability and responsibility. So, and this is all within wizardry as well. And you could throw in alchemy in there, right? Because an alchemist takes parts of all different types of things and makes its own creation. And that's transmutation, taking experiences of what you've learned and what you've been through and utilizing that for the lessons. So it's very much, all of this is under the same, umbrella for sure. And so yeah, I agree with you. Authenticity is vital, and and dogma and religion itself is the antithesis of that. 100%.
Yeah, man. Yeah, very well said. And so the next thing we want to talk about is practical tools and resources. So this is getting into some of the main stuff that we wanted to really get into today, because I think everything we've covered so far is just sort of the foundations of wizardry, and then how that's relevant in today's age. But this one here, because it's very intertwined with technology, and I think that's what makes this, a unique approach to this topic that we wanted to get into today, is how does a modern day wizard utilize every tool at his disposal, even the most modern, or even scary to some people, technologies and tools, right? So computers is an obvious one. You know, wizards of old would spend hours a day in a library reading books and scrolls and tomes. The modern day version of that is sitting at your computer reading the internet, reading forums, right? Not Wikipedia, but wikis and other sources of knowledge that way. Even YouTube. I mean, there's a lot of great information on YouTube, even as controlled and suppressed as it is. So that's one aspect, is knowledge, information is so much more readily available nowadays, even though there is a lot of misinformation, censorship, and suppression. There's a lot of fuckery going on, and sorcery, to be frank. Um, but a wizard knows how to mitigate those things. That the knowledge is still there. It's still there for the taking. You just got to get, the discernment and figure out how to get it and how to tune out all the noise to get the good stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. And modern wizard, right? So again, going back to that modern is the now of how how is society operating, and we have this technology. So to be competent, to be literate in the modern day now, we need to understand some of these tools,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to understand how to use them to create change, get a message out, use them to build resources, to create something. This
Right.
is what the modern time is. The technology, the techno logic. We need to know how to create art in the modern day. And I've been on that spectrum of anti-technology. I'm in a
Yeah.
homestead, you know, on a mountain somewhere, completely cut off from technology. And that is an unhealthy um,
Imbalanced.
imbalance 100%. So I definitely think we need to first, like we're doing today, we're laying out those basics of what a wizard is and what does it mean to be literate in the modern day and how to utilize that. This is where people need to start. This is that episode for you if you're on the fence and you're thinking it's all doom and gloom because of technology. Listen up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, think about this. A wizard is a wizard, right?
Mm,
A person of wisdom. You have to be able to see the world as it is, not as
yes.
you want it to be or do not want it to be. And where we are now is more and more digital. That just is. You don't have to love it. It just is. And you have to at least accept it. And if you want to be potent and powerful in a positive, impactful way, you have to live in the world that is and operate in that accordingly. And that means dabbling in the digital realm more and more than ever, especially. So understanding people are spending time online, they're watching videos. So where do put yourself to be seen? Right here on YouTube, for example. And that's just one example. Um, but just having those technological skills, I should say, are extremely vital. I mean, yeah, I agree. It's the modern day equivalent of being literate, and you're just as disempowered as being illiterate, 200 years ago by not being able to read or write, how handicapped you are in what you can accomplish in the world. That's where we're at now. And so the other thing that I want to get into that we'll probably spend a little bit of time on is AI. Because speaking of what's here and what's happening, this shit is happening for
mm.
real. And we have not even seen nothing yet. I mean, uh yeah, it's hard to even convey to someone who doesn't grasp it just how much things are going to change. And I'm talking pretty soon. Next 5 to 10 years, we're going to have to reevaluate almost every aspect of life, especially when it comes to commerce or economy and vocation, right? What does it mean to earn a living when artificial intelligence and robotics are taking over the workforce? And do you need to see that as a bad thing? Too, it's scary for people because it's like, just like when you talk about no government, it scares people because that's what we've always had. So how could we have something that we've never had before? How would that work? and they seem to need this uh sure assuredness of
Mm.
everything's going to work perfectly.
Surety,
This is how
safety.
it's going to be. There won't be any issues, as if there's not issues now, or as if everything's already working perfectly. That's the fallacy of it. Is clearly what we're doing now ain't working. We got to try something different. But I digress. To get back to what I'm saying, um, reimagining the world so different, because how long has this model existed of you work during the day, you earn your wage, and that is what allows you the privilege of living your life outside of that job, right? What you do after work, where you sleep, if you have a home or not, all of those things are tied to um, your trade, whatever that may be, or your skills that you're able to earn a living doing. So, what happens if you take all that away? There's actually so much more room for creativity and freedom. It's just you've got to be willing to let go of the current model and even what money is itself. It's so far out of what most people can even imagine, let alone think about living, that it's hard for people to even like conceptualize what I'm saying right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be for sure. It's a paradigm shift is what it is. And when you're going to, and that can be very destructive for a lot of people. But a shift in perspective is what people need to start with. They need to be open-minded, have that high teachability and that open-mindedness to dive into and follow a different perspective. And this is kind of what this conversation is here for. But if you're coming from a place of fear and scarcity, then your perspective is going to be hindered. And the whole system of control, it aims to limit and stunt your creative essence, meaning the potential of what you can do or
Mm,
could do. And so I think I'll make a bold statement. I think AI is that potential to be one of the greatest tools, technological tools for us to um, to affect change in the system itself,
mm,
for sure. And I mean by publishing anything. And what does publishing mean? Publishing means to reveal, to make known, to go public. So that can be food, that can be health, that can be, products, it can be a message of truth and freedom and injustice that is going on in the world. It can be many, many things. It's really how we communicate to a large body of people, how we communicate to the world. And absolutely, AI could be that tool for us to utilize um, the publishing skill sets that, number one, hands down, are required to achieve freedom and to end slavery. Required. We
mm,
have to have the publishing capability and skill sets, and to utilize the tools and the message that we're trying to put out there as a wizard, casting those spells, that action from a distance. It's very important and it's vital.
yeah, very well said. For me, I think one of the most important things that I would like to encourage people to consider when it comes to this is AI only has the power that you, the individual, give it. I understand it's going to be used in negative ways, 100%. I'm not in denial or ignorant to that fact whatsoever. But when it comes to you, the individual, and how you utilize that, and how it can be integrated into the bigger picture of how we do things, Will, you said it perfectly when you're talking about opening up creativity. Well, what happens when you're not forced to work to earn a living anymore? How many more things could be created when that creative energy is going into something that is fueled by passion rather than survival? Because it's all the same shit. It's that creative energy. But when you're not forced into that survival mindset, and you can just your time is freed up to create, you know, how would that affect the world? How would things change in that way? And what happens when productivity and income become decoupled? Because think about that. That's the model that we're talking about here. It's always been. The whole economy is judged by or measured by GDP, gross domestic product, productivity. Well, AI and robotics are going to augment productivity to such a degree that it's going to decouple from the employment and payroll system. Not to mention, you throw in cryptocurrency. It's speculated, and I happen to agree, it makes total sense that cryptocurrency is going to be absolutely integrated with AI. Like, that's how it'll be part of the digital economy. It's all digital economy, right? When you take it to the online space, AI is just digital productivity that can be output and kept digital, or it can be translated into analog or physical productivity as well, especially through robotics, because you're giving it a body to do things. But it's all economics. Even labor is an economy. It's a labor economy, right? Trading this job for that job, getting stuff done. It's just natural law. It's reciprocity. It's energetic ecology. So, yeah, I mean, I'm saying a lot here. Hopefully people are following what I'm saying, because it's just a very different thing. But I think what I'm trying to do by bringing this stuff up now is get people thinking about this now, because you might have it in your head, oh yeah, I've seen the AI stuff. It's pretty weird. It's pretty scary, maybe, whatever. But I just don't have time to deal with that, or I'm not that interested in it. And it's like, it's going to be here way quicker than you think. And then by the time you realize that, you're already scrambling because you realize it's moving on without you. Like, this is what we were talking about in the beginning of this episode of, like, it's important to be proactive now more than ever, because if you're not ahead of the curve, then you go to behind the curve really quick. There's not as much of a forgiveness, like a grace period in between. And so now is the time, before the normies and the mainstream are all doing it, to learn how it works, learn how to utilize it, and not replace your creativity, because that's not what it's for. And I, really want to stress this. I know I'm going on a tangent here, but we've talked a lot about creativity, and now we're talking about AI, and AI can do all this stuff. It can, create artwork. It can do all this stuff that humans can do, but it doesn't have to be used as a replacement for humans. It can be augmentation. That's what I'm trying to get across. It's only a replacement if we let it, right? When I use it in my daily life, I'm not being replaced by it. I'm way smarter, faster, all the things, because I'm using it. I'm still me. Like, I used it to help me with ideas for this episode. And I came up with the stuff way faster this way, even though I'm the final arbiter of what I do and don't say. It's not speaking for me. It's not even formulating my sentences. It just gave me some good ideas to talk about. And now I'm using that and I'm augmenting my own creativity by creating this episode now. So if you don't agree, turn the episode off right now because you don't like what I'm doing right this second. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. Well said. And I think I saw a good meme quote. I can't remember the lady's name, but she said AI isn't there to replace your creativity and to write your book for you. It's intended to do your laundry to free up more time for you to
To
write
write
your
your book.
book.
Yeah.
It
Hell
was
yeah.
like an analogy, right? And that's the potential of AI. It comes down to how you're going to use it. And that's what we're saying. It's a very powerful tool. Now, to be honest, it is it is going to revolutionize the whole all of society. It already is. And this is what Logan's talking about is if you are stuck in ignorance, then you're going to be left in the dust. I do think in society there are, the social engineers, the control structure, they are betting on people being ignorant of AI and how to use it, and also the doom and gloom of
The
AI
yeah,
as well,
and
because the doom and
resisting it.
gloom will keep people away from it, as for sure. So if you have just a small subsection of people that understand AI and they are using it, and there's a huge conglomerate of people that don't, then that I think can be used against society for sure, because now you have people that their creativity is down, their knowledge level is down, their skill set is down, and that sets up something for, like a socialistic type of system.
Mhm.
So it's vital for people to educate themselves and understand that it is a tool. AI will never be sentient, how people talk about, right? It's not gonna, it doesn't have the divine spark. It is advanced code that human beings have created, and we can wield that and use that as a tool. And it
Mhm.
all depends if you're going to activate and what you're going to use it for.
Yeah. Very perfectly said. It's imitation.
There you go.
Everything that we create artificially is an imitation of nature, right? You're fucking chewing gum, right? It's grape flavored. It's artificial chemicals emulating the taste of a grape that came from nature. That's just one example. So this is just a highly, highly, highly advanced iteration of, like you said, Will, code that's emulating and imitating human intelligence. It can be very convincing, but not replace. It can never be
Correct.
better than the real thing, ever. Any more than grape bubblegum is going to taste better than a nice juicy grape. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um yeah, it's interesting cuz you're talking about this critical mass sort of thing, and if a lot of people are resisting it and a few people are using it, it creates a very similar power differential as the occultocracy.
Exactly.
So if you think that's bad and then you're resisting AI, that's only going to like amplify the disparity, because it's like now that they used to have guns and you had knives, and then now you're still using knives and then they have tanks.
Yeah.
It's just broadening that gap. But this can be something that is leveling the playing field. All of this stuff, this is all so Aquarian. If anyone knows what that means, the age of Aquarius, not just some new age buzzword, but what that really means. what the energy of Aquarius is all about and what that's supposed to be bringing about in this time as we are moving deeper into this new zodiological age or zodiacal, is
Hmm.
it's about leveling the playing field. That's how I would sum up the entire Aquarian energy, is leveling the playing field. Everything is just even, uh, through things like cooperation, networking, sovereignty, decentralization, and that's what these are all about. There's going to be many different AI LLMs, and so like obviously a centralized AI would be really scary because then whoever controls that is pretty much doing the thinking for everyone. But if there's all these different ones and they're sort of competing to be the best, the smartest, the fastest, then that de-incentivizes an Orwellian agenda, right? Because those are never going to outdo the freedom model if it's not being used by force, because that's the only way that model wins, is through force. It's the only way it's ever dominated. And again, now bringing in the cryptocurrency stuff, which is very tied to all of this. These aren't separate things. They're all part of the same thing that's happening, that's revolutionizing everything, because you have AI, you have blockchain, and then you have cryptocurrencies. These things are all going to work together as one infrastructure. And that's the beauty of blockchain and crypto, is it gives people the ability to transact permissionlessly without any central authority gatekeeping, censoring, monitoring, whatever. And it's true free commerce, right? Exchange of value, peer to peer, anywhere in the world, in a decentralized way, because no one controls that network. It's a network. You can't control a network because it's a system of nodes. Any one node goes down, all the other ones just reject it, and it's self-sustaining. And then now you have, look up something called a decentralized autonomous organization, or DAO. This is the future of self-governance. The current model is so on its last threads of life with what's coming now, because it's going to make the antiquated shit that we've been doing for thousands of years now so obsolete. It's ridiculous. So if you don't know what I mean, just look up DAO, Decentralized Autonomous Organization. This is all in the spirit of what I'm talking about. Decentralization, self-governance, and using technology to actually help that. So you're not relying on the goodness of people. That's what trustless means. You don't have to trust the person on the other end of that transaction, because you're trusting a network that's decentralized and a smart contract that's just executing code that you put in and signed in a digital, authorization, and it just executes perfectly.
Hmm.
What a time to be alive. Will, what are your
Yeah,
thoughts on that, man?
that was a really good riff right there for sure, man. And I agree with that. Just looking at the one great work. Okay, you got to have a camera, a microphone. You got to go on social media and upload videos and create a website. The game has shifted, ladies and gentlemen, because now you have AI where it can totally level up your productivity, your skill sets, web publishing, promotion, all this kind of stuff to get that message out, to do the one great work. And this affects everything. Your business, any business that you're in, um, any industry, it's going to affect for sure. And just like you said, Logan, the occultocracy is exactly what the social engineers do, right? They have a power differential because there is a information differential. So it's just the same plan. We're just evolving into that new that new age.
Mm.
So the potential to level the playing field, it really is going to come down to if people educate themselves on AI and how to utilize it correctly
Right.
and effectively for what? That's the question. For something like, positive DAOs, freedom networks and groups to
Right.
do the one great work, etc. Decentralized currency and all this kind of stuff. I could see them maybe, 40 years from now trying to do a centralized AI hub, and they will accomplish it if people stay ignorant on what AI is and how to utilize it. Just like if people
Yes.
are ignorant on
Mm.
rights
Mm.
or the knowledge of natural law, you're going to become a slave, and that will continue to get worse. So again, it's the same battle plan. Knowledge and education is the answer.
Boom. There you have it. Yeah, man. Yeah, because, you know, um, all technology has the ability to free or enslave you, and it's up to you. It's never the tool or the technology's fault. Doesn't matter what it is, right? Spoons made me fat, you know? Like that spoon can eat ice cream all day or healthy food. I'm not going to say a food cuz then we'll start a debate in the comments about what's healthy and what's not, but you know what I'm saying. Um, the tool can enslave you or it can set you free, and it's all up to you. That is your choice and that is your sovereignty. And it's about what you say yes and no to. Do you say no to Neuralink and that kind of stuff? Absolutely. That's not what we're talking about here. And I know Will probably agrees. I'm not putting any chips or anything in my physical body. That's where I draw my line. And it's good to have your boundary, right? I'm not saying it's anything goes, it's all gravy, because it's not. Discernment is still required, but when it comes to just utilizing, especially in its current form, and it's only getting better, um, I mean, the ways that AI, Chat GPT or whatever, has helped me already is unfathomable in my content creation, in our business, which we're going to talk about very soon. And I mean, just I use it all the time, every single day. It's like an extension of my mind, which, like, say what you want, but it's really increased my productivity. It saved me so much time. And again, say if I have it write me a little YouTube description, I still have the final say. It's not like I'm just blindly copying, pasting stuff in and being like, oh, AI wrote it, I trust it, it's better than me. No, I read it and I think, oh, I really like this, but this part needs a little changing. And then I'm putting my human touch on it. I'm passing it through the filter of my own consciousness and creativity. And then I decide what goes out there with my name and my stamp of approval on it. So that's the kind of picture that I'm trying to paint here. Is that's how you use it to augment, but not to replace you, right? Or make you lazy, because you could see that, like, oh, it's so much easier, just do it all for me, I don't want to think about that. No, like, it's an active process, you're involved in it, you know what I mean? But yeah, so
Yeah, dude, I just want to touch on something because you clarified something very important. And so many people are reactive on this topic. Oh, you're a proponent for AI? Oh, so then yeah, let's put chips in people's brains and do all this kind of shit. No, again, that's people taking are being immoral and unethical and unwise with the tool.
right.
It's not black and white. There's many things that you can do with a paintbrush or a hammer or a saw, whatever. But same thing with AI. It is a tool, and it can definitely increase your productivity, which would that gives you the potential for more expansion on creativity.
Mm, absolutely. So, yeah, we've covered a lot here. I mean, I think we've done a good job of sort of portraying this modern day wizard concept and finishing off on a very powerful and polarizing topic that I say, a modern day wizard is using all the tools that is as his disposal, including stuff like AI. And it's all about maximizing your effectiveness, essentially. So, I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on this. We've covered a lot of stuff here. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Tell us we're full of shit. We want to know about it. Put it down below in the comments. And before we wrap up, Will and I just want to discuss something real quick. As many of you have seen over the last weekend, we have publicly announced that Will and I have joined forces and launched a business called Ostara Hydrogen Therapy to give awareness and access to as many people as possible about a groundbreaking new healing modality. Well, it's not new, but it's new to many people who haven't heard of it. And so that's part of what we're trying to do is bring that awareness on hydrogen therapy, which can help for so many things. It's truly incredible. We're very passionate about this topic, and we're only going to learn more as we're going to be doing our podcast and YouTube channel on this as well. So I want to invite everyone to follow those links. I'll put everything down in the description, our link tree for Ostara. Follow us on the social medias of your choice, especially YouTube and Spotify, where we'll be putting out more educational content on this. And above all, if you're interested in your health and you want to have a better quality of life, no matter if you're already sick or you just care about your well being, check out our free webinar. We just put it on live over the weekend. It was amazing. We got so many great comments and good feedback, and people loved it. And we're excited to keep moving this forward. So if nothing else, check out the free webinar. You just sign up with the link below. Will, what do you have to add to that?
I'm thrilled. Logan and I, we love to help people, and healing and wellness and health is absolutely the biggest category for a human being, especially our friends in the freedom and truth community. This is a modality that has been around for a while, but yet the awareness, mainly in the West, is extremely low. So molecular hydrogen, it is the most abundant and vital element in the universe for all life. And understanding what H2 is and how it can help you and be utilized for detoxification and wellness, especially in this time period where toxicity and biological threats are being bombarded at us. It's important that you have that awareness, which is number one for us, and then access. And we've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, time and attention into this platform that we've created. And we're thrilled to start this journey and have you guys come along. So definitely check out the webinar and the podcast.
Hell yeah, brother. So excited for this, man.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we've been working on this since pretty much all year. Everything is just top of the line, I gotta say. All of the resources, the website, the content that we're gonna be doing, it's amazing. And yeah, I just can't wait to see where it goes. So hopefully everyone, we've got your attention, and you're intrigued and you wanna find out more about what this is all about. Go check out the webinar. You won't regret it. And of course, follow Mr. Will Keller here. He's a legend in his own right. It's got tons and tons of amazing videos, podcasts, presentations, some of the best out there. So check him out at willkeller.com. And of course, anyone who hasn't yet, follow Wizard Factory on all of the relevant platforms. Check out our Patreon if you want to support my efforts in the great work, and check out the initiation package as well, and that'll get you access to the Wizard Factory Inner Sanctum private group as well, so we can have more one-on-one interactions and community building there. So that's going to wrap us up. Will, do you have any final words before we tell everyone goodbye?
Thanks for having me on, brother. I always love connecting with you. I'm excited for the future, and thank you to all the viewers. Look forward to your feedback on this episode, and yeah, I'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure to have you, Will. We always have the best conversations, and hope everyone enjoyed it. So again, smash the like button, subscribe, hit the bell, and we'll see you in the next episode. But until next time, be empowered, inspired, and encouraged. Take care.